What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to The World According to Briggs, a channel that tells you about places in a list format. Almost everything we do can be put into a list form. What you need from the store is a list. Things you need to do on the weekend sometimes can be put in a list. Your favorite movies and TV shows can be made into a list. Some people have lists about the times they've been arrested, called a rap sheet. Others list how many times they've been married. Sometimes you can list how many times you've been divorced. My cousin is divorced, but tells everyone he's widowed because someone dropped a house on his ex. When you want rid of a house and don't have the luxury of letting a twister take it away, you have to do what they call listing your house, listing it for sale. When buying a house, they list all the fees and whatnot you'll have to pay. One of those whatnots is property tax. Most of the time, it isn't terrible, but there are some states that make it terrible by taking too much in property taxes, and that's what we're listing today. The states that stick it to you when you're buying your dream home. So let's find out which ones do in my top 10 states with the highest property tax. Number 10, Rhode Island. For such a small state, Rhode Island has a very large property tax. The property tax rate in Rhode Island is 1.66%, and the median home price is about $245,000, much higher than the national average. This equals out to the average resident paying a little over $4,000 a year in property tax. For a lot of Americans, that's more than a month of take-home pay. For a worker at the Amazon Fulfillment Center just outside of Providence, that is about a month and a half of pay. And for Jeff Bezos, the guy that owns Amazon, that's how much he makes before I can say the words Rhode Island. Actually, he probably makes a lot more than that in the amount of time you could say Rhode Island. Number 9, New York. As if everything from a soda to a back alley pharmaceutical purchase isn't already overpriced in New York, you have property tax. The property tax in New York is about 1.68%. This is much higher than the country's average of about 1.1%. This, combined with the median home price of about $193,000 in the state, makes the average resident pay about $5,000 or more depending on where in the state they live. If you live in New York City, it's a lot more. I'd like to tell you how much it is, but my calculator doesn't go that high. Yeah, really, though, New York City is so expensive that nobody lives there probably ever watches my videos. They can't because they have 3 full-time jobs just to live in the city with their 4 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment. It's crazy out there, but it's worse than San Francisco, to be honest. Number 8, Nebraska. Nebraska isn't the first place you'd take your family on vacation. It's probably not the 37th place either. And to take it a step further, not many people voluntarily move to the Cornhusker state. That may be a good thing too, since Nebraska is boring and has one of the highest property tax rates in the country at 1.80%. The median home price here is lower, so that's good. It still seems ridiculous to be paying $2,500 a year for a cheaper than average home. For a state that doesn't have many people and is putting a lot of effort into bringing people and companies into the state, that tax rate isn't helping their efforts at all. Number 7, Vermont. Vermont is the happiness state, and no, that isn't their nickname, the Green Mountain State is. But a study was done where Vermont was found to be one of the happiest states in the country. The sugar maple is Vermont's state tree, and everything in this state seems to be flavored with maple. It's a big deal to them. I think all that happiness comes from a constant sugar high. One thing that'll ruin any high is, well, A, finding out someone stole your Xbox, and B, paying taxes. The average resident here pays $4,000 a year on property taxes alone. The property tax rate here is 1.83%. It is a nice state, but that property tax rate's getting kinda up there, and it turns a lot of people off. Number 6, Texas. Everything is bigger in Texas, including property taxes. Texas has a lot going for them. Good people, great economy, awesome barbecue, and killer tacos. What else is killer, besides having someone drop a house on you, is paying taxes. Like Vermont, the property tax rate in the Lone Star State is 1.83%. The average Texan pays around $3,300 in taxes a year. Luckily, once you get outside the big city, you can find relatively inexpensive homes with a lower mortgage, which means you can find much lower taxes. The rate stays the same, but since the calculation of taxes comes off the value of your home, it's lower. Now, that is common sense to 90% of us, but I'm sure at least one person was going to make a comment about how's it going to be lower if it stays the same. I guarantee someone was going to tell us that. It's called math. Number 5, Wisconsin. The Badger State is a good state, so in a way, it's almost acceptable to pay high property taxes. The average property tax here is just under 2% at 1.94%. Now, thankfully, the median home price in Wisconsin is about $170,000, which is much lower than the national average, but the property taxes will still get you for about $3,300 a year. The thing about Wisconsin is this. It's a really good state if you don't mind the cold. Almost all the cities are decent or great. Milwaukee is probably the only negative in the state, and when you compare it to other quote-unquote bad cities in other states, it's really not that bad. The people are down to earth and nice to each other in the Badger State. So like I said, the property taxes are high, but it might be worth it. Number 4, Connecticut. Now, unlike Wisconsin, most of the cities suck in Connecticut. Hartford has a special level of suckage, which leads me to say they have some nerve having one of the highest property taxes in the country. Connecticut has a property tax of 2.07%. The average resident here pays about $5,600 a year in property taxes. Seeing that the median home price is higher than average at $300,000 kind of explains why it's so high. I explained in another video a couple weeks ago how most of Connecticut is bad, but it still has a couple of the wealthiest counties in the country. Between those counties and the rest of the state, there is a world of difference. The Constitution State is the state's nickname, and I really wanted to tie in some joke about taxes and the Constitution, and I came up with nothing. If you think of something, leave it in the comment section below. Anyway, the Constitution State doesn't just stop at high property taxes. They stick it to you again with the 4th highest vehicle tax in the country. It's like a hustle in this state, and the residents are the suckers. Number 3, New Hampshire. New Hampshire has the 3rd highest property tax rate in the country at 2.20%. It's kind of steep. The median home price here costs about $245,000, which is higher than the national average. This combined with the property tax means the average resident pays about $5,400 a year on the cheaper property. Trust me, there's some people paying a lot more in these states. They have the higher end properties. New Hampshire has to have high property tax. They don't have sales tax, and they don't have a real state income tax. I mean, they only tax interest and dividends, not actually people's hourly wages or whatever. So they've got to get the money someplace. It's either the high property tax or maybe, I don't know, a giant statewide bake sale. It is a beautiful state, so they kind of get a pass on a lot of these things. Kind of like when you tell someone, but good thing you're pretty, that type thing. Number 2, Illinois. The property tax rate in Illinois is 2.31%, with the median home price throughout the state being a little under $200,000. This would make the average resident pay property taxes of about $4,500 a year. Now, the average home price is really cheap in Illinois. That is until you get to Chicago. With the 2.31, they have to be raking it in with Chicago alone. Chicago is in Cook County and holds 40% of the state's population and 50% of the crime. Here's a good one. Just last week, a man caused chaos in the Woodfield Mall in Chicago by driving his SUV through Sears and into the rest of the mall. Nobody was killed, thankfully, but oddly enough, he's facing terrorism charges. But they say when the 22-year-old Javier Garcia stands in court, legal experts feel the terrorism charges will be dropped. But it's just, they got a lot of weird crime going on in Chicago. Maybe they do need those tax dollars to combat stupidity. And number 1, New Jersey. New Jersey. What can be said about the Garden State that hasn't been said by a man with Tourette's that's been doing some heavy day drinking and stubs his toe? New Jersey has the highest property tax in the country, and I don't know why. Normally, when you pay top dollar for something, it's something that's really good. The property tax in New Jersey is 2.44%. The state's median home price is just over $320,000. This makes the annual tax on a medium valued house over $7,000 a year. That's almost $2,000 more than the next on the list. It's like they're trying to win a competition or something like that. Who can gouge the residents the most? It's like them in Illinois struggling, battling for number 1, but New Jersey's kicking their butt. Congratulations, New Jersey, you're number 1. Alright, so that is my top 10 states with the highest property tax. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. I hope you've learned to stay away from New Jersey. Don't forget all the links below. Buy a t-shirt. Subscribe if you haven't. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.